Alright everyone, real quick, I just want to do a little overview and first impression on the new Spyderco and Peter Rassenti collaboration. This one is the Paysan. They did one previously called the Nirvana. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that one already. I may reference that a few times in this video just as a comparison, because they did address a few issues I think that the Nirvana had. Just a quick little comparison. Here it is next to a Chris Reeve knife, Sebenza 21 with the Insingo blade. Pretty similar blade length. The handle is definitely a little fatter on the Sebenza. It's a little longer on the Paysan. Blade shapes are pretty similar, and they're both titanium frame locks. That's kind of why I wanted to compare those two. Big difference here is that the blade stock on the Paysan is definitely thick. Here I'm also going to compare to another integral knife, the Benchmade Anthem. You can see also very thin blade stock. So yeah, when I say integral, that's kind of the driving force behind these collaborations between Spyderco and Peter Rassenti. That means they take a chunk of titanium and they mill the handle out of it, so there's no space here. It's all just one piece milled out on both of these. This one is an axis lock. This one is a frame lock. And one of the first things I noticed when I opened this is just how good the action was. Real quick, you're going to see it does have some lock stick, which I'll address later. But the action on this thing is just great. It's so smooth. Yeah, I'm excited about it. Drops shut really nice. But that lock stick, they did add a titanium lock bar insert onto this, which the Nirvana did not have. Sorry, stainless steel lock bar insert. The Nirvana is like the Chris Reeves Sebenza, where it's just the titanium onto the blade itself. There's no lock bar insert at all. I think a lot of people like the lock bar insert, including me, just because it doesn't have the same type of warranty support that I think the Sebenzas have. So if it does get worn out, I like to know that it might be a little easier to get it serviced since it has a lock bar insert. Not a huge deal. I don't think people really ever wear out their lock bar face that much, and if they do, it's pretty uncommon. But it is a little bit of peace of mind, so that's always a good thing. So first I want to kind of talk about the blade. This one has a bit of a polished stonewash finish. So it's very similar to like the Sleesh Bowie, where it's nice and glossy and reflective. You can see, maybe not in this video, but the little imperfections that the stonewash provides, when it matches with the like gloss finish or the polished finish, it almost like sparkles. And one reason I like that is because it is kind of a bland knife color-wise. It's just gray on silver, but it's kind of stonewash, so it's kind of like gray on gray. So that little bit of sparkle looks nice. You can see I did add a deep carry clip. It's a little bit of purple with gold. It wasn't a super expensive one, but it works good, adds a little bit of flair. Also on the blade, like I mentioned, it is a thick stock. Blade HQ says it's 0.15 inches thick. They said the Sebenza is 0.13 or 0.12 inches thick. I don't know, that seems substantially thicker. Maybe I'm just stupid and don't realize that 0.12 and 0.15 is a big difference. Maybe it is, but it definitely seems a lot thicker. Also the jimping here, with that polished finish, it makes the jimping feel soft. I don't feel like it's rough on my hands. It is flattened. It's alright. These are going to get used. Oh well. It is flattened on the top, so it isn't going to bother you. kind of similar to the handle. They're kind of spread out and flattened on top, so it's super comfortable. It is kind of like a Warncliffe blade. I don't know if they call it that. There's so many different names of like blade shapes now, but it is CPM S90V. That's a great steel. I haven't used it extensively. I often carry a Manix 2 in S110V. People like to say it's chippy. Once you sharpen it, I haven't had mine chip at all, and I'm not worried about using S90V either. If anything, it's probably less chippy, and like I said, I've had no problems. Kind of down to the handle now. One thing I really liked is this pivot. On the original collaboration, the Nirvana, the pivot was pretty much the same as this Anthem. It's just one little like silver screw. It didn't honestly bother me that much, but it is nice to see them just kind of pay attention to some of the finer details and make a nicer pivot. It doesn't take any proprietary tool. It's still just a Torx bit, but it looks really nice. The handle itself, it's stonewashed like the Nirvana was, but it doesn't have any of like the engraved pattern to it. And it's a little bit of a lighter color. It's not as dark of a stonewash. The milling on the handle is like smoothed out. It's not sharp and uncomfortable. So that was definitely a plus when I first picked it up. Feels really good in hand. It has a bit of a choil here. I find it really comfortable. It's almost like a middle finger choil. I guess if you have a giant index finger, you could put it there. But my index finger kind of presses up right here. It's really comfortable. I love the thin handle with the large blade. It just makes it feel like it makes it really comfortable while also having a lot of utility. I definitely prefer more blade than handle. And also it lets it carry well. When it's closed, it doesn't take up tons of room. It actually carries pretty small. And with this clip, at least, it carries pretty deep. With the stock one, didn't carry very deep, but not a huge deal. It also has this lanyard hole, which I'm not really a fan of. I feel like it gets pretty close to the sharpened part of the blade, and it would start to fray any lanyard you put in there. I could be wrong, but it was kind of in a similar spot to the Sebenza in terms of proximity to the sharpened edge, and the lanyard on my Spenza started to fray on the first day. So not sure if it's actually practical, but if you love lanyards and you gotta have one, at least you have that option. That's about it. I'm sure I missed some things, but like I said, overall first impressions, super smooth action. It does have lock stick, but it is a stainless steel lock bar insert, so I feel like once it kind of mates to the surface of the blade and kind of forms to it, it'll go away. I played with it a little bit today, and it does seem to have already diminished a bit, so I'm not overly concerned about that. It does drop shut really nice. It's on bearings. I have not mentioned that, but it is on bearings, and it does have the stop pin integrated here. Let's see if I can get that lighting. So that's the stop pin right there, and it's on bearings. It runs very smooth. Yeah, that's about it. So it's the Spyderco and Peter Rassenti Paysan. It's about $520. Some people are losing their minds over that. Whoops. I think it's a fair price, honestly. Or at least it's not completely ridiculous. This thing sells for about $420, and this sells for $450. I wouldn't say the Paysan is $100 better than this. And, well, I can't really say it's $70 better than that either. The Sebenza's great. I think it's just the fun action makes it a little more interesting to handle, but in terms of just an overall knife, I'd say these are all pretty much even. So if you want to Peter Rassenti design and you can't afford his customs, which hardly any of us can, this is a great way to grab one. I love his designs. I'd love to eventually get a custom. But in the meantime, the Spyderco version, it's left me satisfied. One thing I didn't mention is the spider hole is super smoothed out. Some people complain about Spyderco holes being sharp. This one is not, and with the polished finish, it makes it even softer. Yeah, so a little sidetracked there, but like I said, I think it's a pretty fair price for the knife. It could be a little cheaper. I'd like to see it around the same price the Nirvana was, around that $430 mark. But I was waiting for this knife to come out for a while, so I'm just happy to have one. If you can find one, pick one up. If you can find one for cheaper than $520, then definitely pick one up. But yeah, I think it's a cool knife, and I think you will like it if you grab one. Have a great rest of your night. Thanks.